Boxing Truth here. I did a video a while ago about Kell Brook. I said in that video that he had to step up in 2016, and it's very true. He's won a world title, but it's been a while since he's had a quality fight. Um, he's taken on too many mandatory challenges. Obviously, he has to make those defenses, otherwise he'll lose his belt. He's the IBF champion, and the IBF is very strict. So they're gonna take that mandatory defense with Kevin Bizier, which is scheduled for March 26th. It'll be held at the Sheffield Arena, and where Kell Brook is from, where he grew up. Eddie Hearn's hopeful that perhaps some hometown fans of Kell Brook will come out for a decent turnout for that fight. Obviously, it's a tough sell. Kevin Bizier lost to Jojo Dan, who was destroyed by Kell Brook. So it's going to be hard for a decent turnout to come out and see this fight. It's a predetermined matchup. Many feel Bizier has no chance to defeat Kell Brook, and rightfully so. The style-wise, it should be an action fight for however long it lasts. Kevin Bizier he's a decent fighter. He's not a bum, but he's just not a great fighter. He has the high guard. He comes forward. He throws good punches. Good left hook to the body. Decent three-punch combinations. Lets his hands go. However, he has deficiencies defensively. Very open for the uppercut. Kell Brook has a nice uppercut. He's very textbook. He throws good jabs. Very good technique. He has a good straight right hand. Can use his jab and switch it with uppercuts, and he has a good right hand, and it's just he's too strong for Kevin Bizier. He's the better fighter. He's the better athlete. Much stronger guy. He's the champion. So it should be an action fight, but it's just not the fight that's gonna gain any more fans for Kell Brook. But he has to defend that belt. He needs that belt for negotiating power at the negotiating table. Without that belt, then he won't be able to get the type of money he could get for these type of defenses. And Kell Brook, he was scheduled to fight Diego Chavez. That would have been a good fight for him. Diego Chavez is an underrated fighter. He's a very good fighter actually, but he just doesn't have the name recognition, and he's had some exposure. He got knocked out by Keith Thurman, but gave him a tough fight. I'm in a minority, but I felt he beat Timothy Bradley. I'm not the only one who thinks so. I thought the scorecard that Julia Letterman had was right on. I recently watched that fight about a couple months back because I remember watching it the first time. I fell asleep. I just wasn't really intrigued by it. So I watched it again. Everybody was saying, Bradley dominated, but he didn't. I actually thought Bradley lost that fight. Anyways, Kell Brook, he wants to step up for this year. He wants a big fight for the summer. He will most likely get past Kevin Bizier, make another defense of his title, and then he can take a voluntary defense in the summer before he has to make another mandatory defense. However, Eddie Hearn did a recent interview with Kugan Cassius. Apparently they're not beefing. It was all a joke. It was their first interview. It's always entertaining watching their interviews. They really go deep and give great insight to fans on negotiations and why fights happen, why fights don't happen. And they talked about the Amir Khan situation. He's apparently pricing himself out of the fight. He's demanding in the neighborhood of an 80-20 split for a domestic showdown with Kell Brook in the summer or in June. And apparently it could be even more than that, perhaps a 90-10 split. So Khan is very delusional with that type of offer. There's no way to negotiate. That's no way that a world champion is going to take a 10% cut when he's bringing something to the table to make this fight big. It's just not going to happen. However, I just don't see where this big fight can happen for Kell Brook in the summer if it's not Amir Khan, because looking at the ratings, he wants the biggest fights out there. Kell Brook is willing to travel to the United States if he has to. He would prefer to stay in the UK for the fight, for a big fight, but just what can Eddie Hearn offer to a fighter in the United States to come over? It would have to be an enticing offer for them to come over. So that'll be difficult. It will be more likely that Kell Brook will have to come to the United States for a big fight. But looking at the ratings, Manny Pacquiao and Bradley will fight on April 9. The winner of that fight, and it's very possible Manny will retire if he wins, but it's very likely he will fight. He will continue to fight. He's got a large entourage to feed, so it's a lot of freeloaders that hang around him. So I see him fighting again if he wins, but Bob Arum is not going to match him with Kell Brook. That's not going to happen. He's going to want to try to either get Crawford ready to take Manny in the fall, or if Bradley wins, it's the same thing. He's going to offer Bradley. Bradley has stated he will never fight Crawford. They're friends, but Bob Arum is going to do everything in his power to make an offer that Bradley can't refuse to fight Crawford if he wins on April 9th. So it's not going to be those two guys. They're gonna stay in-house, perhaps do a fight with Crawford, or if Manny continues to fight, he's going to pursue heavily for a rematch with Mayweather. So that's not going to happen. I don't see it happen with Bradley either. He also mentioned the Keith Thurman Shaw Porter winner. It's possible, but Eddie Hearn and Al Heyman have done business in the past, so it's possible. But they only did business together when it was beneficial to Heyman. I mean, James DeGale had to come over to fight Durrell for a vacant belt at super middleweight, and Kell Brook had to come over to fight Sean Porter for their fight back in 2014 when Porter was champion. So only when Heyman had control, that's when those fights got made. So, is he willing to send Keith Thurman or Sean Porter to UK to fight for a unification fight with Kell Brook? Is that fight gonna happen next? The winner of Thurman and Porter? I don't see it. I mean, Al Heyman has never shown to give his fighters tough fights back to back. It's not in his DNA. Usually he'll match him in a tough fight, and then maybe the next fight or two it'll be, a soft touch in between, or a solid matchup, something like that, or just a predetermined matchup, more likely. So he doesn't really match his guys tough back to back. So, and Heyman's gonna want to build up a unification fight between the winner of Thurman Porter and Danny Garcia. So he's also going to want to keep it in house, then go after Kell Brook, because either of those guys, Porter already lost to Brook, and Thurman could definitely lose to Brook. So Heyman's going to keep it in house, in my opinion, and try to build a unification fight with Danny Garcia. I just don't see the big fights. If it's not Amir Khan needs to, give a more reasonable offer for that fight to be made. It's his biggest fight. It's still on the table, but just doesn't appear likely to happen. Amir Khan should take the fight, because no guarantee. Even though just because he's a mandatory to Danny Garcia, that doesn't mean that fight's gonna happen. There's Miguel Cotto has could be considered. Cotto's team is considering Kell Brook for Cotto's next fight when he returns, most likely in June. However, weight in that fight will be a factor. Can Cotto make 147? That's still unknown. It's a good fight for Brook. It's a fight I believe he could win, but it's just how possible that fight can be made. The Rock Nation, Eddie Hearn, they've never done business together, so I'm just not sure how possible that fight is. They should really try to get Marquez for perhaps a summer showdown. Marquez has expressed interest in a fight with Kell Brook. He's very still motivated to win a fifth title in a fifth weight division, and he's mentioned Brook as the perfect guy to try to accomplish that feat. However, Marquez, it's still no word if he'll come back, but if he does, he most likely will take a tune-up because it's been almost 2 years since he's fought. So that's the problem. I just don't. If it's not Amir Khan, who the hell is Kell Brook gonna fight? Because unfortunately for him, he's not a star in the United States. Nobody knows who the hell he is besides hardcore boxing fans. So it's not like he's in a great demand from the networks in America to fight some of the fighters in the United States. I mean, how much money can they offer him for a fight against like a Thurman or a Porter rematch? Like it's just you gotta remain hopeful that fight will happen. But right now it's not looking very likely. Man, it's gonna be tough for Kell Brook to get that big fight. He needs it real bad. It's just he's in a bad spot right now. Khan don't want to fight him. He's scared he's scared shitless of losing to Kell Brook. It'll be very embarrassing if he lost to him. Everybody will. I mean, he's already a laughing stock in boxing, but it just creates more laughs for fans to laugh at him if he loses to Kell Brook. It's just I don't know. I don't see. And Brook needs that big fight sooner rather than later because he's growing out of the welterweight division. I mean, he's a huge welterweight. I think he's one of the biggest welterweights in the division. It's got to be a struggle to squeeze down to 147 with his body type. I just don't. If it's not Khan, I just don't see how he gets that big fight in the summer. But Eddie seems to have something up his sleeve. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. I don't see where the options are at. Maybe a Cotto fight's possible. Maybe Marquez is willing to take the fight and go over to the UK. He's never done that type of. It's not in his DNA though. He's never done that in his career. Travel to. I mean. I don't know. I don't see it. If it's not Amir Khan, I see another a no-name opponent, and a lot of fans are gonna get very upset and continue to call Kell Brook on a bum quest. They're gonna call him out on his bum quest, even though he's doing what he has to do to keep the IBF belt. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.